Okay, welcome back to the Answer the Call podcast, where we help Christians faithfully discern their calling and then translate that into a practical and purpose-filled career. Today is one of my favorite kinds of episodes, maybe my favorite kind of episode, because we're sharing a success story. I have the awesome, the inspiring Bobby here with me. And when Bobby first started coaching, I promise I'm going to let him speak in a second, but I'm giving him an intro here. When he first started coaching, he was deep in the grind of demanding corporate job. And if we fast forward to 6 months later, which is now, he's still in the job. But there's a really exciting path that's unfolding for him in the realm of entrepreneurship. So I think his story is a really great example of playing the longer game in your career transition while still highlighting the immense impact of an intentional career decision. So with all that being said, welcome to the podcast, Bobby. For listeners who haven't met you yet, can you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. So, my name is Bobby. This is my very first podcast, so steer
Yay!
me right here, Audrey. I'm trusting you. But yeah, so I guess uh, leading up to this, I've had a career now, probably I don't know, 23 years, just in various corporate uh, positions. I work in information technology now. I'm doing data work specifically. And I guess maybe the best way to put it for those that can relate to kind of the corporate slug is it's a bit of a grind. You know, there's you kind of start your career when you're young. I think you get into things, and I kind of think of it as like I never really was intentional. Would just take maybe take the career one day at a time, and one task leads to kind of a series of things, and you kind of look up, and it's been a year or two, and there's another opportunity that opens. And so in the course of that, though, it just, I guess, as the years unfolded, I never really did sit down and think about where I wanted to go. You just kind of blank and you look back, and it's like, wow, it's been a lot that's happened. And especially in my career, I've found that, like, the more junior you are, you're trying to kind of make a difference and just make an impact. And then that impact, it grows. Your responsibility maybe grows. With that, hopefully your comp is growing too, and you find your place. Your cup kind of gets filled in different ways. But for me, where I was over the years, like when you work hard, eventually that, you know, maybe you get to a place where you want to be and you're a bit more comfortable financially, but the burnout factor is real. And I think the things that used to be, the habits that you developed trying to get, to make that difference, at some point along the way became expectations. And, when I sat down to think about getting into career coaching, I think it kind of hit a head, and it's like, wow, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. The expectations are sky high. The hours I put into this are a ton. Comfortable finally, from a financial standpoint, but is this the right thing for me? I've got two boys and a wife, and that time is fleeting when you think about it. And the career is such a big part of our lives. Like, not being intentional with that's kind of weird when I sat down and thought about it. So, hence the decision to jump in on the career coaching path.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. You had previously mentioned like feeling trapped in your career before coaching. What were some of the biggest challenges or frustrations that made you realize that you did need that change?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, like, there's this weird cycle of I'm a provider for my family. I'm doing that well, and then when you think about, oh my gosh, am I going to make a change? Like, what went into my mind always was there's never really like this perfect time to jump off the cliff and do that, because oh my gosh, what happens if I don't provide as well for my family? Or, we're going back to the lean years, and it's not just me anymore. Um, it's my kids that are kind of, for better or worse, like, they're impacted by those decisions. So yeah, that led to, I think, like, just this mindset of, just keep grinding. do the best thing you can do the best for your family. And then I don't know, when you, for me personally, when I started to think about, well, maybe there's a better way forward, you almost start to feel a little bit selfish. It's like, well, if I make this change again, like who could this impact? And so it just kind of, I don't know, yeah, it led to this feeling maybe of being trapped, where it's like, um, I don't think it's the right thing to do to make a move, and even maybe even feelings of guilt of like, well, God's blessed me with this career. I feel a little bit like, why am I going to complain about it? Or am I just complaining? Like, can I just suck it up? Like everyone has to work, right? So that has led over the years definitely to a feeling of, I don't know if I should do this. I feel like I've kind of gotten a bit far in. It'll be disruptive to change things up. Is that the right thing to do? And then it's just kind of this vicious cycle of, you know what, I'll just keep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I actually wanted to ask you about something that you had said before about you had heard God debunk the lie that wanting something better when you already have something good means that you're ungrateful. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I think you were touching on that a little bit already.
I think debunking that lie, like when I got into it and started looking at different career alternatives, it became maybe clear to me that I didn't have to feel ungrateful, that um, you know, I was thinking of something different. A lot of the stuff that we did at the onset was just self-reflection of, you know, what brings you energy and what maybe takes your energy away. And it put me in a place where I was kind of kept coming back to a couple of themes. It was maybe sports and maybe being outdoors. And those are things that are inherent to, like, maybe some of them how I grew up, but also like maybe in a lot of ways the way that God made me. And so I think, you know, thinking about my current position where I spend a lot of time in front of a laptop and I spend a lot of time like in a room, and especially since COVID, when you're like, I'm in a position where I work quite a bit remote, and so a lot of that time is just in the same spot. And so like sitting down and reflecting and thinking about those things where, hey, what could life look like? I think it really just opened in my mind some things that um, God was really speaking to me personally, things that maybe even the way He created me, things that I like to do. And so when we went on that trip ultimately to visit with the folks at this franchise that we're interested in, um, it was cool. It was really cool, and it was just fun to be there and just to think differently. And it was um, one of those things where, you know, felt a lot like, oh my gosh, like there's so much goodness here. We've been praying through this. That it just, I don't know, it just felt a lot like an open door, and not like I guess the more you progress, God tends to, at least in my life, like he gives you some rope sometimes, and sometimes you make an incorrect step, and then you have those, whether it's like someone speaking truth into your life or feelings or something like that, that's like, I'm going the wrong way. Like every step that we've taken so far has been like just affirmed and been enlightening, and it's been like, whether it's a friend saying something to me or just the feeling of this just feels good and right, like it's kind of flown in the face of that mentality of you shouldn't do something different, or you're being ungrateful for even exploring this.
Yeah, yeah. I think you are depicting actually a really strong picture of bringing God into your decisions and how mm, I'm going to process this externally. So stick with me here. A lot of times when we're not bringing out God into the decisions, a lot of things feel kind of close ended and like we're shrinking down and we're hiding ourselves and we're just like, I'll just accept it. I'll just do this. I'll just do this. And we're making a lot of concessions versus when we bring God into it, the dreaming and the wondering and the visionary side of us comes out. And I'm speaking generally. I think people are all very different in this, but I'm hearing that in what you're saying, that when you did start to invite God into the career decisions more, a lot of possibility and openness came up, which led to exciting things and a lot more hope, I guess would be the way to say that. Does that when I repeat that back to you, does that sound right?
Yeah, I think hope is the right word. I mean, it's interesting, like when you grow in your career and like, I mean, you don't always love it. I think sometimes it's this inner battle of like, yeah, I just I got to keep going, and I think that process of maybe just exploring some things that felt a little bit wild, things that were like, hey, I don't, maybe they've always been a thought in the back of your mind, but it's always been like, yeah, but reality is I should just keep plowing because maybe I'm kind of good at it, maybe I'm having some success, and it's just working for the family. Being able to um, like walk that path with God and not, and every day just kind of thinking through it and praying through it is always helpful. And I think too, like when you're in a career, I think like that's pretty demanding. Sometimes it feels like um, you're 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 doing that, like you're kind of white knuckling it, and you're just trying to get through the day, so that you can get back to the goodness that God's provided. And I think a lot of ways, even where I'm at, because I'm still, um, in the position I was when I started the career coaching. And I don't know, to be quite honest, like how much longer I'm going to be in this, because there's a path forward that might take some time to unfold. Um, but a lot of it, like just stepping back and thinking about the career holistically, like has also been good for me to just think through, like there's not really a, maybe some of it was not a check God at the door mentality, but it's like, oh my gosh, just let me get through this so I can get back to the good stuff. And some of this thinking of, you know letting my mind go there of what's next has also been kind of in a way like, well, it shouldn't be two separate things. It shouldn't be I'm just going to grin and bear it in my career, and then like I've got this big giant door in between what makes me happy and then my career. So maybe even inviting God into some of the things that in my current position that have upset me in the past, or things that are really stressful. Um, uh, Going through this, I guess, has helped me in that way too, because it's like the things that maybe have been really frustrating. Yeah, there's always going to be frustrations at work, but um, you know, facing those things together, like just like I'm walking in this whole franchise thing with God, where's this thing going? Like I don't know if it's right, and then ultimately, like I said, things are unfolding well. Same thing in the corporate position is like, well, there's a mindset shift there too, where it's like, just like where I was saying, hey, do I feel ungrateful to walk with God there? Maybe I feel frustrated to walk with God because I feel like I'm walking by myself in a lot of ways with a career. Um, it's opened that kind of change of heart for me in a way too, like in my current position. So I don't know, they go hand in hand a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been sweet in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and the white knuckling and having that big gap between what you're doing and what you like doing. I heard that in our conversations come up quite a bit, where you would say, "Oh, I just got to spend 10 more years in this career."
Yeah. What's 10 years? Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I just got to make it 10 more years, and then it makes sense for me to step away. And we got there eventually, to make a transition quicker than that. But I think that's an important narrative to run through, of even just saying those kinds of things out loud and then having someone repeat it back to you is incredibly helpful to hear it with new ears, I suppose, of, oh wait, 10 years is actually a really long time. That's actually a really long time to be operating at this level that I no longer want to be operating at.
I
Or
would bet a lot. Yeah, I would bet a lot of people have that mindset. I'd be curious for your perspective, because, like, I mean, our society now is so like, um, you kind of look out for the next major milestone, and it's like, okay, for me, if I can just put in the next 10 years, and then great, maybe there's retirement at the end of the tunnel. But then it's like, okay, 10 years at the expense of what? I've got two kids that are still in the house. Um, really, it is a lot of time that I spend in that little office that I spend so much of my day in. And I think, like, in the context of a career, it's like, I've done 20 plus years. What's another 10 years? But then you think about it, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, is there really wisdom in that? And maybe, maybe there is. For me, I don't know. Maybe there is even 10 more years in this current position, but like, the way that I approach those 10 years, if it pans out that way, or if this franchise thing pans out and that becomes like the full time job eventually, that's. that's great. I think either way, it's like that shouldn't be like this such a huge hill to climb, I guess,
Mhm.
because otherwise, um, in my mind, it's like it's almost stunted. Like, yes, please just get me through these next 10 years so I can get to kind of like the prize, which is, I don't know, retirement or comfort or whatever that may be. Um, yeah, it kind of, I don't know, you're kind of fast forwarding through all the good stuff. I don't know,
Mhm.
just to get there.
Yeah, we recorded an episode a month, 2 months ago, and Kelsey and I got into it. We laid into it of how dare
Ooh.
you wait to walk in your calling, basically.
Uh,
Where speaking to people in general, like, don't wait. What are you waiting for? Like, do something about it now. It doesn't mean making an irrational switch on everything and messing up your whole life or your family's life, but start doing something intentional with your career and your calling. Maybe your calling isn't aligned with your career. Whatever it is, it's don't stop waiting. Everybody's waiting for retirement. I could go on and on and on. And I'm not going to, so I can stay on track. And yeah, so I appreciate your discussion on that and your thoughts on that. I think a lot of people will relate to it because, oh, I've done 20 years. What's 10 more? Well, 10 years is 10 years. Seeing a child, you know this better than I would, from 0 to 10, that's a big difference.
mhm.
So we need to have our same kind of mindset with careers because what we do matters. And that's step number one is recognizing that what you do does matter. So speaking of what you're doing, I want to talk a little bit about the career shift that's happening, the changes in your career that are happening. And because we've said it a couple times that you're trying to open a franchise. So you're in a good job with good money and you're making a pretty serious pivot into entrepreneurship, specifically opening this franchise. This whole path started with a wild conversation about batting cages. And we kept calling it, or at least I kept calling it. I was like, okay, the crazy idea. Let's come back to the crazy idea, the out there idea, the entrepreneurship, the one that isn't going to work. There's something there. Let's keep going. So when did that start? Which is kind of a note for me as a career coach. Maybe I shouldn't call it that. But in your mind, when did you start to see it? Okay, actually, maybe it's not the out there idea anymore, or maybe it's not the crazy idea anymore. Maybe it's actually something that could work out.
I guess maybe probably should have listened a long time ago. Like it's weird. Like if I reflect back, opening a batting cage was probably always something like I talked to a friend of mine. A friend of mine, he opened a franchise a long time ago, probably also like 20ish years ago, called I9 Sports. It's in a lot of different areas where it's like youth sports. And when I started thinking about seriously, hey, this whole batting cage concept, I reached out to him. He's done really well with that franchise. I'm like, hey, he's the franchise guy I know, so let me ask him. And I'm like, hey, I got this franchise idea I'm thinking about. In my mind, it had always been like this wild idea that I wanted to chase that was just opening a business on my own. But I realized just in the course of thinking about it, that like another friend of mine had actually recommended, hey, just consider a franchise first. And so when I went to this I9 guy and I said, hey, let me tell you what I'm up to. And he was like, dude, you've been talking about that for years. You've been talking about that since college. That's so cool. And so it was just kind of yeah, like I have always had this idea and I thought I'd do it differently. But then when we started exploring and I started looking at like, what's already out there today, there was one that was out there that was really cool. I'd been to it before. I say batting cage, it's a bit more. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and in terms of like athletic training and stuff. So um, it just seemed like a really cool opportunity in the wheelhouse of something that I've been thinking about for a while. When I pulled my head up for air, I actually had quite a few people that I could talk to that I knew that like had either done something similar, like from a franchising standpoint, or were small business owners, and it was just kind of cool to be like, oh, these people that I know and are good friends of mine. Like there's another friend too. He owns like these bounce houses that you can go in, these jumbo ones where kids are flying all over the place. I called him and when I was doing discovery too, and I'm like, hey, I've been talking about this batting cage. He's like, yeah, we we spoke about it. I didn't realize like how he'd actually in the past thought about in his bounce houses, like putting some batting cage type stuff. He done all this analysis that he just walked me through, like systematically, of like how to make money doing this, and like the things to think about, and like there were major drawbacks as to why he never did it. And so it just kind of armed me with some really good thoughts and questions as I started really seriously thinking about this, that I was able to then take into like some of the discovery as we were working with, this franchise. So I don't know. It was cool. It was something that I had always kind of had in the back of my mind, and just the fact that I had friends that like I'm like, these are the guys that I just hang out with, maybe have a beer with or whatever, and it's like, how did you have all that in your head? And I never knew that. So it was good to talk it through, and that really advanced it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually verbalizing the dreams, the thoughts, what's in your head, what's in your heart, and just seeing how other people can help.
Yeah, and people that have walked in something, maybe not necessarily that directly, but something close enough. People that I was able to trust, that have known me for a long time. Again, it was no secret when I called the I9 guy, like, hey, um, this is what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about doing. He was like, oh yeah, like no surprise at all. So I don't know. It's weird how that pans out. So I know I've had like just wild ideas over the years of stuff to do, but this one I think kind of always sat. And so yeah, to actually take that and do something with it, as opposed to that was just going to be like one of the wild ideas that I had in the back of my mind for a while, is like, oh okay, there might be actually something here. So
Hmm. So I'm going to bring in a shopping analogy here.
oh yeah, you're gonna lose me. Go ahead.
A shopping phenomenon, if you will. There's a moment in shopping when you're with your friends and you're shopping, you try something on, and all your friends are like, "Don't you already should own that. That looks like something that already should be in your closet. You have to get it." And it's an extremely validating reason to spend money. And I see that in what you're saying here too, when you're articulating these ideas and close community around you who has known you for years says, "Yeah, duh, that totally makes sense for you." And there, that's so helpful. People saying, that completely makes sense why you would pursue something like that. Or that seems like something you should have always been doing. So yeah, get started. That's beautiful. That's the power of leaning on community, having that close community, people who have known you for years, people have heard you say these things in the past. So I'm so grateful that you've had that. And I really would encourage people listening to this to lean into that. And you probably have more if you're questioning, do I even have community like that? You probably have more than you think you do. Just start talking to people. We're so siloed and we keep our thoughts and our dreams to ourselves because we're embarrassed of what if it doesn't work out, or what if I articulate this and then nothing comes from it? Won't that be so embarrassing? No, it won't be embarrassing. It's so much more embarrassing to keep everything to yourself, in my humble opinion.
That's how it's played out to me. And even getting into the coaching thing in the first place, it was just kind of like a one thing led to another, and I'm like, oh okay. I'd heard I haven't met Kelsey, but she was on a podcast, and so I was kind of like, oh, the concept of a career coach, that sounds cool. And then I sat down with, there was a guy at the church that we go to. He was a retiring missionary that was he was in a career in the Air Force before that. And so I sat down and had dinner with him, and I'm just like picking his brain about hey, that time that you moved on from the Air Force to be a missionary, like let's talk about that. And he shared with me just kind of that experience, and it was really cool because, like, for those that know the military, once you hitting 20 years is a big deal because you get a pension, and then like kind of my whole let's hold on for 10 more years and maybe you'll be in good shape. He had faced, I think he said he was like 13 years into the Air Force, enjoyed his career as a pilot, and it was like, as he's telling me, I'm like, oh, 13 years in, you just have 7 more years to go, and then you get the pension. You're good. You're in a pretty good spot. And he had told me, he heard like clear, like God's voice saying, I want you to be a missionary. And so, one of the interesting things he said to me, I think I left that conversation with two things. It was like, number one was like, um, he said, like, why when he realized that that was what he was meant to do, or what God was asking him to do next, he didn't like the whole hang on for the next 7 years concept didn't even cross his mind. It was like, why wait for tomorrow to do what God wants you to do today? And so I was like, oh, that's okay. That's some serious conviction and clarity. And then the other thing he said was, hey, you ever thought about a career coach? And I was like, huh. And so leaving that, it was interesting because I was like, wait a minute, where have I heard about this career coach concept before? And then so I, I was like, oh, it was on that podcast. And then anyway, I ended up calling you guys, and it just kind of went from there. And there's some other stuff that that kind of led me to do this anyway. But it's back to your point about like, um, having friends around. You never know. Like this guy at church that I sat down with, it kind of led to this conversation, which led to me talking to other friends, which only affirmed, let's go do this. And so you're totally right. I think like the people that you have in your network, once you start to just like vocalize some of these things and sit down with them, the stuff that comes out of it can be pure gold. Things that you never even really expected to have.
Yeah. Yes, that's so good. I'm so glad that you shared that story. God's always speaking. It's just a matter if we're listening to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds: husband, father, provider. I'm describing you. What's what does it realistically look like to make the necessary transition out of your current job while also pursuing an entrepreneurial venture? Do you just have like millions of dollars lying around? You can do whatever you want, or what's that look like?
I'm trying to get to that millions dollars part. No, it's an interesting thing because my wife and I went out for this. They had like a discovery day where you go find out more about the franchise and is it going to be a fit. And we walk into this place and it's like there's turf on the ground, there's baseball videos playing, and I'm like, oh my, where have I been? Like, shouldn't I have been here for the last 20 plus
The
years?
shopping phenomenon.
Yeah, so shopping. Yeah, we went shopping for a batting cage, but um, yeah, we in the course of doing that, I think realized we wanted to do it. I mean, it was like, oh, this sounds cool. This is something like really life giving for us. When I say us, my wife's not really into sports, so I mean for me. But she's been awesome. She's been like right there every step of the way, and I think you know um, there's maybe like this in my mind like two ways this could play out. One is, hey, we've been approved for the franchise, and we're going to move forward with it, and the franchise it needs a general manager, and so I could play that general manager role, and I could hop out pretty quickly, and that might be a way that I'm like challenging myself or leaning into this plan that God's put in front of me. Or the other way is, probably anyone who started a new business would be like, hey, you might really want to think about whether you jump off the deep end from day one, or if you've got a good thing going, maybe you run both of those things in parallel until you find a good jumping point, or just find a good way forward. I mean, a lot of the people that um, end up owning this particular type of franchise, they come from corporate careers or careers where they've been able to keep those careers and open the franchise, and so it becomes a decision point, and something that we're still thinking through. So I'm excited. We know we're gonna do it. What I don't know is the path from here. Like, what happens with current job? What happens with franchise? Do the two dovetail at some point, or do it? I don't know the exact steps, and so I think it's just been encouraging. It's been like a day by day thing, even to get to this point where it's like we know this is what we want to do, because we talked about a lot of stuff, Audrey. Like at one point, I was going to be a golf course GM.
Mm-hmm.
I forget all the things that as this thing kind of unfolded, like it was like twists and turns, and like you kind of picture yourself doing different things, and for a variety of reasons you say yes or no to different things. Like the golf course thing was like um, a weird one anyway, because I'm not a golf guy. Like, is that just stupid? But also like the thing at the end, I was like headed down that path because we have someone in our family that really has that career, and he's doing really well. He's an awesome guy. I'm like, dude, this is great. Was at the end, I'm like, well, but I got to give up my Saturdays, and my Saturdays, like I get back to the 10-year thing. Like, I don't want that. Like, it's really important to me, the stuff that the kids got going on Saturdays. It's running around doing soccer and stuff like that. So anyway, it's been a cool place of like trying to figure out where to go, but it has been like literally like a step by step, every day praying through it. It's the whole daily bread concept of like every day I get a little bit more clarity into what happens next, but um, it very much has been like you take the steps while God establishes the plan. And so I with this with us, I don't know where it's gone. I don't know what, like I'd love to have written myself somehow in the future, like a note like a year down the road that I could open right now and be like, oh, cool, that's how it unfolds. But we're just, literally taking one step at a time and figuring out, like how to do this wisely, in a way that, allows me to make this change that I'm excited about. And then also still, um, does it in a wise way. So I don't
Hmm.
know exactly where it's going, but, yeah, I've got the franchise thing in the hopper. We're working on that. And we've got the job that I brought into the conversation from the get go still going.
Yeah, it's a refreshingly realistic example of just what responsibility and dreams where they intersect. Where, okay, this is the dream that we're moving towards, this is what we're trusting God with. But in the meantime, there are bills to be paid, there are lives to live. So you're keeping the same job for now, and we'll see how it unfolds in the future. But I think that, like I said, I hope can be refreshing to people because for change to be meaningful, it doesn't all have to happen at once. And there's still a lot of transformation and completely new mindsets that can be found even from the outside when everything looks the exact same. Those are some of my favorite stories to share, where if somebody who doesn't know you at all and maybe just saw the bullet points of what's different, they might think, okay, cool. But when they actually listen to this episode, hear your story, and hear the internal transformation that's happened, um, it's really beautiful, and it's only something that God could have written. That is for sure. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share that. If you could talk to somebody who's listening to this episode who maybe is thinking about career coaching, but is hesitant or is just kind of skeptical, what would you tell them?
I'd say jump in. I was that person. When I shared the story with, about the guy that I met from church. Even after that, even if after like hearing his story, and even after like connecting these weird dots of, oh, I heard this career coach thing the other day. I was I remember like I was trying to make up my mind of like, okay, do I do this or not? And then I remember I was at the gym one morning and I left and I called my wife. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I decided I'm not going to do it. Um, because I was like, just all the stuff we just talked about, right? Is because, we got a good thing going and whatever. I'll just labor for, woe is me. I'll wait, labor for the next 10 years or more or whatever that takes. And I'm like, that, I'm just trying to be realistic. Like, um, you know, chasing something different now might not be wise for our family. And she was like, she said to me, I think that's the devil whispering to you. And I was like, wow, that's like, my wife is so real. She cannot tell a lie and she's very direct.
Mhm.
So in that instance, I don't know, it was just like, even when my mind started to go to, next, let's not do this. Like my fate is set, I'm just going to keep working this job I have. Um, you know, God allowed her to talk to me in that moment in a way that was like, just, and then I 180 and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's do this. And so, I ended up doing it. And then I don't think there was one person I spoke to that was like, yeah, you should do that. Everyone was like, oh, that's a good way to invest in yourself. And then, I think, like I said, when the way this all unfolds is like a lot of it up front is just reflection and really like some intentionality that I know I've never had, which is weird because like there's intentionality even when you're picking your next show that you want to binge watch, like,
Mhm.
but yet we don't have the same intentionality when it's something as important as where you're going to spend like a lot of your days and weeks. So anyway, that even just right off the bat having that intentionality just to sit down and think about like how have things gone? What do I like? What fears are preventing me from, actually progressing this thought that I've had in the back of my mind for forever? So yeah, maybe the advice, don't trust your gut on this, because you might be in a place where you're like, not for me, not going to work. You just, I'd say just try it, or at least talk to the folks that are important to you in your life, that know you and may be able to speak truth in the same way that my wife did to me. And I mean, yeah, who knows where it'll lead. For me, it led to action. We're about 6 months since we started. And it's tangible action that wouldn't be happening, quite honestly, if I'd said, not for me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Ooh, that gave me chills. Good way to wrap it up, Bobby. Seriously. Well, it sounds like everyone just we need to have your wife on retainer. And when people are like, I don't know if I wanted to, say, oh, I got someone for you to call.
You will get the straight dope out of my wife.
Yeah,
So.
that's awesome. That is
She's awesome.
awesome. So seriously, Bobby, your journey has been an amazing reminder of just stepping out in faith and taking those intentional steps, like you mentioned, and seeing how God shows up in ways that we could never plan. So thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your story. Maybe in a couple of years, we have to have you back on when your franchise is up and running and successful and super exciting and fun and everything you always dreamed of. At least I pray it is. And you can talk about that. But for now, I will be cheering you on every single step of the way. And I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
No, all good. And you've been awesome. So for anyone that's listening, that's thinking about working with Audrey, specifically, she's fantastic. So
Wow.
she will unlock the secrets to your mind. I promise you. No, but it's been really good, really enlightening. You even helped me through my first podcast here, even though I tried to make it awkward there in the beginning.
You did a great job at the podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research, identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want, rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.